Hey friends, today we're diving into a character straight out of the dusty pages of Roman history. One who will make you say, what kind of mind is living in there? The infamous little boot, Caligula. Buckle up, because this guy's life is packed with absurd, perverse, and downright spine-chilling details that would make even the wildest TV show plot look tame. Let's dive into Caligula's unbelievable world. What do history books tell us? Emperors are powerful, intelligent, strategic, and so on. Forget all that. Now imagine an emperor who loves his horse so much that he wants to make it a consul, basically today's prime minister. Not satisfied with that, he gets bored of fighting on land and declares war on Neptune, the god of the sea. He even orders his soldiers go and collect seashells as spoils of war. I'm not joking. And this is just the beginning, so fasten your seatbelts as we plunge into the darkest and most absurd era of Rome, filled with Caligula's madness and perversions. Believe it or not, it all started so beautifully. Caligula, whose real name was Gaius Caesar, was celebrated by the people when he first came to power. After the oppressive, stifling reign of the previous emperor, Tiberius, Caligula was young, dynamic, and loved by the public. He lowered taxes, pardoned exiles, and held grand feasts for the people. Everyone was saying, here's the man who will save Rome. That kind-hearted, generous young man was the hope of everyone. But then, something happened. According to historians, shortly after ascending to the throne, Caligula suffered a severe illness. And when he got out of bed, he was no longer the same man. It was as if that good-natured soul had vanished, replaced by the devil himself. And that's exactly where the story takes a dark turn. Do you want to know the first thing he did? He declared himself a god. Yes, you heard that right. He started proclaiming, I am Jupiter, I am Neptune, I am whatever I want. He had the heads of other god statues in Roman temples cut off and replaced with his own. He demanded that people address him as Supreme God. Imagine someone who was giving you orders yesterday suddenly telling you, I am God today. Incredible ego, right? But his madness wasn't limited to his ego. It was mixed with horrific cruelty and perversion. Let's get to the most famous part, his beloved horse Incitatus. Caligula loved this horse so much that he had a marble stable built and a golden manger made for him. He assigned servants exclusively for the horse. He attended parties with his horse and, according to rumors, even planned to make him a Roman consul, one of the highest-ranking officials. Imagine the faces of the senators, men who had devoted their lives to the state, now learning they were on the same level as a horse, maybe even taking orders from it. It was the ultimate way of mocking all state officials. You are not even worth as much as this horse in my eyes. Perversions. If we go there, we won't get out. Caligula is rumored to have had incestuous relationships with his sisters, especially his favorite Drusilla. When Drusilla died, he declared her a goddess and plunged all of Rome into mourning. He turned the palace into a literal brothel. It is said that he forced senators' wives and daughters to attend his parties, slept with them, and then rated them in front of their husbands. Shame, morals, rules, he didn't recognize any of them. Unlimited power had turned him into an unlimited monster. Do you want to know what he did when he was bored? For example, during gladiator fights, he would give senseless orders like, I'm bored, throw in those two bald men for the lions to eat. Or just for fun, he would accuse wealthy families of treason, seize all their property, and then execute the entire family. He had a famous saying, I wish all the people of Rome had a single neck so that I could cut it with one stroke. Look at the hatred and brutality in that man. But Caligula's cruelty wasn't limited to the sword. He had practically turned playing with people's minds and humiliating them into an art form. Imagine this. The most respected eldest senators of Rome were forced to run for miles alongside his chariot. Those great men in togas, panting as they ran beside the emperor's carriage, while Caligula looked at them and laughed out loud. That's what is told. This was the most nauseating, most sadistic use of power, and the psychological torture had no limits. On one occasion, he invited to dinner a father whose son he had executed just earlier that day. Throughout the meal, he ordered the father to drink wine, laugh, and appear cheerful. He warned that if he showed even the slightest sign of grief, he too would be executed. Just imagine what that father must have felt that night. That was Caligula, a monster who took not only people's lives, but also their souls. So was all this cruelty and all these executions only the result of boredom and sadistic pleasure? No, my friends, there was an even simpler reason. Money. Caligula completely drained the state treasury, filled to the brim by his predecessor Tiberius, in just a single year through parties, banquets, and unimaginable projects. And when the money ran out, what did he have to do? Of course, seize the wealth of the rich. That's why he constantly declared people traitors and confiscated their entire fortunes for the treasury. And he spent this money in ways beyond comprehension. One of his most famous projects was the floating bridge over the Bay of Baiae. To connect the two shores, he had hundreds of merchant ships lined up side by side, laid a road across them, and built a floating bridge 5 kilometers long. Why? Just to disprove a soothsayer who had once told him, "You becoming emperor is as impossible as riding across this bay." For 2 days, he rode back and forth on that bridge, wearing the armor of Alexander the Great, held feasts, and by the end of the night, it is said, had some of his noble guests thrown into the sea while he was drunk. The great Roman treasury was squandered on nothing more than ego and madness. Remember how I said at the beginning of the video that this man once declared war on the sea? That too happened during this period of ego and bankruptcy. He led his army north to conquer Britain, but never launched the attack. Then one day he lined up all his legions on the shores of the English Channel. The soldiers thought they were about to board ships and cross over, but Caligula gave his legendary command, "Attack!" But the enemy wasn't the Britons, it was the sea itself. He ordered his soldiers to thrust their spears and swords into the water. After this absurd ceremony, he declared, "Victory is ours. Now collect the spoils of war we have taken from Neptune, god of the sea, these seashells." Some historians say this was meant as a humiliation to mock soldiers who were planning to rebel against him. But whatever the case, this event proves just how absurd and how utterly unchecked Caligula's power truly was. So how long could all this cruelty, madness, and perversion continue? Of course, only so far. Neither the Senate, the army, nor the people could endure his behavior any longer. Even those closest to him, his own guards, had had enough. And one day, while attending a theater performance, he was ambushed by the very Praetorian guards he had always trusted. He was stabbed multiple times. Not only him, his wife and tiny daughter were killed there in the corridor as well. And so, Rome awoke from this nightmare that lasted only 4 years but felt like a century. Now I ask you, did Caligula truly go mad after his illness, or did his true monster emerge once he gained unlimited power? Maybe it was all revenge against a system that exiled him as a child and killed his family. Maybe it was all theater. We'll never know for sure. But one thing is certain, Caligula's story is one of the most terrifying and cautionary tales of what power can do to a person. Alright friends, that's it for today's video. I'm looking forward to your thoughts on Caligula in the comments. If you're curious about the dark sides of historical figures, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like the video, and hit that notification bell. I'll see you in the next video. Take care and goodbye.